5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good morning, everybody. It's November 1st. I'm having a great day. The sun is shining, and I just got back from Maryland. I'm sorry I missed you, Gregg. All the partying.
Yeah, I'm sorry too, honey. Good morning, everybody. How you doing? How was your trip?
Fabulous. Maryland is beautiful. Mr. P came. We had a great time. Yes.
How the kids? How are the kiddies doing? Everybody's good.
Great.
Your daughter, everything.
Yeah, my granddaughter was a witch. She was gorgeous. My grandson was cooking for us. It was great. We had a great weekend. Really great.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
But
Yeah, I apologize for not being there. I just running a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, so I had to just pull over, and because I just didn't want to miss it anymore. I think I've had a little bit of an absentee kind of guy being at my being next to you. Plus, I can look at you. You know what really bothers me? Look at what you do. Look at how you're dressed. Now you have a turtleneck. I'm always yelling at you for showing cleavage, and now look at you. When I'm not there, you always dress up.
Today is cold, and today I'm professional. I have the soon-to-be county executive on. I got my pearls on.
I know. Look, I swear to you, he should be on every show, for crying out loud.
That's true, Bruce. You're always welcome.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be on with you guys today.
Good. I got to tell you before we start. Good. Good. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. So what's going on? You had a great weekend, and what's today?
Yeah, well, today we have, listen, as you can tell, this is crazy. You got to see the paperwork I have in the car here. You would laugh. Of course, today's daylight saving time ends. We have National Authors Day, National Family Literacy Day, National, of course, Calzone Day, which we all love calzones. I don't know about National Vinegar Day. What do you do on Vinegar Day?
Vinegar
National
Day.
Cinnamon, and one of my favorite, not this one. All right, the way this, I was just getting ready to say, to read National Cook Your Pets Day, but it says National Cook for Your Pets. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
And that's our special things of the day. I wanted to start something in case I get disconnected with you guys. This weekend, we had a really great weekend with Kiwanis. We had a trunk or treat in Franklin Square, Kiwanis Franklin Square. I think we had about over 1,500 kids that came by. I wish I could show pictures, but it would be difficult. Bruce, we handed out all the bags. He had all these great bags. They were, the candy garment bags. They were great. And we want to thank you, Bruce, so much for that. That was really nice of you. You didn't have to do that.
Yeah, well, first of all, it was our pleasure. Supervisor Clavin and I wanted to do something special for this Halloween for the kids. And we had some extra Town of Hempstead bags, garment bags. And so we handed it out to the kids and let them go out and get as much candy as they can.
Oh, I'm telling you. And you know what? It was so crazy. It was so crazy that we doubled the amount of candy that we purchased last year, and we almost ran out. We had parents running to every store buying all bits of. It was crazy. And I got to tell you, Franklin Square, it's a pretty tough crowd, but I got to tell you, the kids are great. Their parents are great. I want to thank everybody. I definitely want to thank Ed Rod and Simmerman. Ed Rod, which he's part of our club. The guy, he's also an amazing human being. And I want to thank Massapequa, the Club of Massapequa, and the Club of Levittown for helping out. But I got to tell you one quick story, and then we're going to start. Because I was running around, I was Batman. If you look on Facebook, you'll see I was Batman. And I was in the car driving, and I naturally make my rounds as Batman. And to make a long story short, I didn't have any candy, so I was giving money. Like I just got a whole bunch of ones and started whenever I would see somebody. Well, there were 4 kids that were walking. And I said to them, you know what? I said, guys, are you good? And I said, are you good in school? The kids turned around and they're like, yeah. I said, are you failing anything? So all 4 of them said, no. So I said, you know what? Today's your day. And I said, here's 20, take 5 each, okay? And I said, you sure you're not failing? And that all 4 of them said to me, no, I'm not failing, sir. So they came over, they said, thank you. They were so grateful. And then not even a minute went by, and yet one kid came back and he said, sir, I'm sorry, I can't take your money. And I said, why not? And he said, well, I'm failing math. I got to tell you something. that thing broke
Wow.
my heart right there. That, you know what? You're looking at a 13-year-old kid, which right off the top, I said, parents, you know, if that kid is ever, I hope I ever meet their parents, because they really did a great job with this kid. You
Yeah,
know,
absolutely.
I'm very big on honesty and stuff. So when he said that, I said, you know what, because you just came back and you were honest enough, I said, here's another 5, right? And he turns
Wow.
and he goes, thank you, thank you. And he goes, my father passed away last year.
Oh,
And I gotta tell you something, this thing, I when he walked away, I just, you know, I started getting, but I gotta tell you something, you know, the kids out there, I know it's a little difficult for them, but you know, you're up there looking at your kid, you did a great job, I gotta tell you. So I just wanted to say, for those 4 kids, wherever you are, keep up the good work, and to all the other kids around. So
Well, listen,
I just wanted to mention that.
That is a great story. It's definitely heart-rending story. You know, I work with a lot of kids. I've coached, I've mentored. You know, it's not where the kids start, it's where they finish. And maybe this kid's going through a tough time. He lost his dad. Maybe he's not concentrating as much on school. And, you know, that's not to say that this kid can't rebound and pass math. And you never know, he might become a mathematician someday. You know, it's just,
Right.
you never know, and you
Right.
can't give up on the kids. But I will say one thing. If you're giving out 5s, I'm trick-or-treating in your neighborhood next Halloween.
he's a good guy.
He's a great guy.
Yeah. So what are we doing, Bruce?
Yeah, so guys, I got to get back on the campaign trail, but I did want to come and be with you at the Breakfast Club. I'm sorry, I'm using my wife's Zoom, so I don't even know how to use it that well. So that's why I think my picture is a little dark and her name's still on it, but it's just great to be with you guys. Look, the bottom line is this. There are so many people in our county that are hurting. They're hurting because of this reassessment by County Executive Laura Curran. 2/3 of the people got an increase in their assessment, and that means their school taxes went way up. I talked to a woman, Ann, 95 years old, lives in Levittown. She's a widow of a World War II veteran. She's on a fixed income. Under Laura Curran's reassessment, her taxes went up $9,600. That's crazy. She lives in a very modest home in Levittown. It has to be a mistake. I also spoke a couple of weeks ago with Marie, Haitian American woman, bought her first house, first generation American in Elmont. Her taxes went up in 1 year, $27,000. It's crazy. And at the same time, there are mansions in Nassau County worth over $3.5 million that aren't paying any taxes, 0. So when Laura Curran says that her reassessment was fair, she's out of touch. And, you know, 200,000 people grieved their taxes this year, and most of them won. What does that tell you? It tells you that her valuations are all mixed up, they're incorrect, and it needs to be fixed. It's broken. She won't even admit that it's broken. It's broke, and I will fix it. I will get in there, fix it, straighten it out. Otherwise, your taxes under her phase-in are going to go up every year for the next 3 years. And last week, she vetoed a $120 million tax cut from the Republican majority in the legislature. They passed a $120 million tax cut. She vetoed it. She has said that she would not rule out defunding the police. She vetoed a bill to protect police officers, incredibly. She tried to kick federal agents out of the Nassau County Jail who were there to protect us against gang violence. The insanity has to stop. Whether you're a Republican, Democrat, Independent, or blank, conservative, you have to send a message that enough is enough. We're tired of the high taxes. We're tired of the crime that's out of control. Shootings are up 39% in Nassau County, and they're everywhere. Rockville Center, Elmont, Inwood, Baldwin. 3 bank robberies last week in Wantagh. A drugstore knocked off in Bethpage. Homes and cars broken into in Manhasset. It's just enough is enough. And this is a year where we need to get back to Republican values and principles of low taxes, and we've got to fight crime. You know, I'm running with Annie Donnelly. She's running for district attorney, a 30-year seasoned prosecutor. Her opponent, Senator Todd Kaminsky, is the author of the Get Out of Jail Free Law, the so-called bail reform law that's causing this havoc throughout New York State and here in Nassau County. So I'm running with Annie to restore safety back into our neighborhoods, fix the broken reassessment, and cut taxes. So I want to thank you guys for the opportunity to be with you today. I wish I could spend more time with you, but I got to get cracking. We've got, you know, just less than 48 hours and just a lot of work to do, but please go out and vote. And one last thing, there are some important propositions on the ballot this year. Vote no on all 5, because if those propositions pass, people who are legal immigrants will be counted in the census, and they will be counted for bad reasons, not good reasons. They will be counted to redistrict this county and make it into a very liberal, progressive, socialist county. And they also have on the propositions same-day registration without photo ID. So on the day of the election, anybody could walk in, if this proposition passes, register and vote without any ID. It's just a recipe for fraud. It's a recipe for stealing elections. They want to take away your vote. Just vote no on all the propositions. Get out and vote tomorrow. Thank you. And the next time I'm going to be on the Breakfast Club, it's going to be as your county executive.
That's it. Looking forward to it. Oh,
We
thank you
really
so much,
are.
Grace.
Yeah, and
You're
you know
amazing.
what? You bring the bagels, Bruce.
You got it.
That's
Listen,
it.
God bless you all, and God bless America. Thank you so
Take
much.
care, buddy.
Take care.
See you
Good
soon.
luck.
Good luck.
Thank you.
The guy, I got to tell you, he really is. He's a terrific guy. He really
Yes.
is.
Oh, I love him to death.
Yeah.
Got a good sense of humor too.
Does he? Sometimes,
Yes.
well, sometimes, yeah. Sometimes, that's not what I'm sorry. I was getting ready to say something else. I remember meeting him and a while back ago, and I don't know. Someone said to me, "This guy, Bruce, whatever." And I got to tell you something. I know, like a typical politician, they always go and shake your hand and so forth. And I said, "How come you're not shaking hands with everybody?" He goes, "No, I do." He goes, "But I don't want to be that typical politician." And I was like, "That's good. Now you're going to shake my hand, all right?" So he started laughing hysterical, but he was really, I wish him all the luck. I know it's going to be, it's a long haul. I know when he's going to win. He's got to win. You know, he's a nice guy, and he does a lot for the community. So we wish him all the luck.
Well, I'm thrilled that he was on, that he had the time.
You know? Yeah,
So
yeah,
getting
yeah.
back to today, you know, today is a beautiful day. I think the winter's coming. It's going to be freezing. So, you know, we have to start dressing warmer and staying healthy.
No more cleavage.
And, what?
Nothing. I'm sorry. I said no more. I said no more cleavage.
Well, maybe a little. We'll see.
Before we start, I want to give a few shout outs. Jenny A, Jenny C, Stacy, Michelle, Ashley, Teresa. Congrats. Susan, of course, our #1 fan. And Gina, I got to tell you, Gina from Rescue Fan, Gina and Vinny, they were at the Halloween party. And you know what? I'm taking pictures with everybody, not realizing, because one, everybody has a mask on. Nobody tells you what they're going to be. So I'm saying hello to everybody. Everybody's saying hello, blah, 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 but I can't hear because the music's going on. I take pictures, and towards the end of the evening, all of a sudden I was like, "Hey, Gina and Vinny, what's up? What you guys doing?" They said, "Where were you?" Didn't realize they were the first people that took pictures with me. You know, so Gina, I got to tell you, both of you guys, your costumes are great. And again, Rescue Families, you got to follow them, and you got to support them because they have an amazing. They do everything amazing. I'm sorry, but yeah, so I want to say, and Michelle and Kenny and John and Stephen. Wait a second. Margaret, we have Ashley, how are you? What else? What do you have? And another Kenny. Hello. Okay. Anyway, let's get back to you, hon.
Yeah, I am so thrilled to have Michael Vecchione here today. You know, I love what he does because you know how I am, love the crime and the mafioso stories. And he's right here, and he's actually going to talk to us about all the things he has going on. The most exciting, I guess we could say, is the new thing, Hand of the Killer.
Well, Hand of the Killer is a short story that I wrote based upon a case, a very interesting case that I had when I was in Brooklyn. And as you know, I was chief of the rackets division, and a lot of the, I would say, touchy, important, interesting cases came our way, and this was one of them. It goes back to the days of the unfortunate Crown Heights riots that were started as a result of an accident by a rabbi driving his car, and he hit a kid who was riding his bike, and that turned out to be a very bad situation. Riots for days and days.
I remember that.
Dinkins was the mayor and lost control of Crown Heights, and Ray Kelly had to come in, and finally, after days of rioting, the riots were put down, but not before, I should say. A scholar, Jewish scholar from Australia, was walking in the street and was murdered. And it was a terrible, terrible situation. But shortly after that, the tension in Crown Heights was awful between the Jewish community, the African American and Caribbean American community, and one day this young woman was coming home from shopping on a Friday for Shabbos dinner, and she was unloading her groceries, going from her car into her home, left the door of her apartment building open, or home open, I should say, was a few steps up into her home. And she first put her young daughter into the apartment, and then was carrying the groceries in, and she was set upon by a guy who pushed her into the foyer of her apartment building. I keep saying apartment building, it was her home, it was a first floor apartment, and stabbed her 35, 40 times.
Unbelievable, really.
And as he was leaving, what he did was he had obviously blood all over his hands, and to brace himself to get up from stabbing her, she was on the ground, he touched the wall above her body, his hand filled with blood. And he left
His
the
fingerprint.
hand of the killer.
Oh,
Palm print, full palm print.
on purpose.
No, I don't think he did it on
Oh.
purpose.
I don't think that was on purpose.
I don't think that he wanted to leave
I
that.
don't know. I'm like, why would he do that?
I don't think somebody who gets stabbed 35
Right.
times
No.
want to
No,
let
so he
everybody
did
know
it
that I
because
did
he
it.
was
Well,
struggling.
he needed to brace himself to get up off from the floor, from the ground where he was stabbing this poor woman. The little girl, her daughter, was put by him into the back bedroom. She had a pacifier in her mouth, and he took it out of her mouth, and he put it into his pocket. Why? I have no idea, but he did that, and it ultimately led to my convicting him. The hand is the reason for the story. The title of the story is that when I convicted him,
Hands of the Killer. Yeah.
Newsday did a front page. That was the front page of Newsday, and the reporter called it Hand of the Killer. What happened was we were able to get several other witnesses from the neighborhood who ultimately zeroed in on the killer. His name was Romain Lafond, and it was a situation that caused tension. Lafond was from Haiti.
Absolutely.
The Jewish woman was obviously was a Crown Heights resident, and it was a matter of really the cops and people in my office and myself kind of working to quell what was going to be a problem. There were issues involving riots again by the Jewish community at that point, but it never really got that far. We were able to find out who the killer was fairly quickly in terms of the time between the death and when we arrested him. And when the police went to arrest him, he was in his sister's home and he had a baby in his arms. It was I think a christening or whatever. And the police went in and arrested him. And he had the baby in his arms, and they obviously gave the baby over to his sister, arrested him, took him back to the station house. They palm printed him, and the print came back as a match, and he was arrested. Now, why does the baby and the pacifier from the little girl play a role? Well, when I was getting ready to try the case, I thought that I would be able to cement it. I didn't have eyewitnesses, but I had witnesses who saw him leave the house, someone who saw him come down the block and go towards the house. I wanted to strengthen the case. So I asked that his DNA, a DNA swab be taken of him so we could match it against the DNA in the blood on the wall, which was possible. And it turns out, much to my surprise, that there was no match. That the DNA on the wall was of the deceased, whose blood was up there, and a separate DNA that did not match the Romain Lafond. Now I had handed the defense a defense to the case, because now they could argue, and they did argue, that he came in and it might have been his print, but the DNA indicates that there was someone else there who was the killer. So I had to figure out a way out of this, and what could I do? And I called up a friend of mine who at the medical examiner's office, who was in the serology laboratory. And he was one of the people who was instrumental in bringing DNA into the forefront years before. And his name was Robert Shaler, Dr. Shaler. And I called him and I said, Doc, can you come down to the office? I've got this issue. I've got to find out how we can get out of this, if we can get out of it. So he asked me to tell him the entire story. And I told him everything about the little girl being put into the back room, that the pacifier was missing. She was addicted to the pacifier. And friends of her mother and her father told me that they didn't know where it was. They couldn't find it. So I should take you back to the arrest. When the arrest occurred, Lafond had a pacifier in his pocket. Now I thought, and the police thought, maybe it was the babies that he was holding, but they called me and they said, Mike, what are we going to do with this pacifier? I said, take it, voucher it, which means secure it, and we'll deal with it down the road. Well, it's a good thing that we did. Because when I told Dr. Shaler the entire story, he said to me, tell me about that pacifier again. And I told him what I knew. He said, let's test the DNA of the father, first of all, and the little girl. And they do. They test both. Father is not a match, but the little girl is. Her DNA was the missing DNA from the wall, the unidentified. And Dr. Shaler testified and told me that he would be able to testify that when the killer, it was in his pocket, the killer took it out of her mouth and put it into his pocket, her saliva and whatever else she had on the pacifier passed onto his hand. And when he touched the wall, that transferred her DNA up onto the wall.
Whoa.
He wanted to know if she had a cold or was suffering from any kind of anything that would produce mucus, and sure enough, she did. I asked her mother's best friend. She said, yes, she had been suffering from that. So now, when I went back into the courtroom to tell the defense attorney and the judge the new evidence, the defense attorney looked over at me. I knew him for a long time. He looked over at me, and under his breath, he said, you motherfucker. Because I had obviously taken away his defense with this. We put Dr. Shaler on the stand. I put another expert on the stand. And here was the key. Before I did that, I had to make sure that we were able to say that the pacifier that was found in the pocket was the daughter's pacifier, the little girl's pacifier. So as I'm preparing the case for trial, I call in the husband, her father. I don't say a word. I just say, come on in, I need to speak to you. I say nothing to him. And I say, I want you to look at something, and I want you to answer a question when I ask you. And I take the pacifier out. I put it on my desk. Before I could ask him the question, Valentina, he said, you found it. That's my daughter's pacifier. How did you get it?
Oh, geez.
So now I had the father, I had Dr. Shaler, I had another expert. They all testified, along with the eyewitness, an eyewitness who saw him coming out the back window of the apartment, a witness who saw him approaching the front stoop of the apartment, and he was convicted. And it was a very, very satisfying case, I have to say.
I'm sure it was.
And that short story is based on that case that I did with Hand of the Killer.
Unbelievable. And
So-
you're preparing a screenplay for this?
Well, I'm actually writing another book, and I'm going to use.
You're nonstop. I got to tell you, you
No.
are nonstop.
No,
How
I,
many years have you been retired from
He's
the
gotta
force?
keep busy.
I got six chapters done, and that story is going to be part of this new book, which I'm calling a true crime fantasy. And what I want to do is I have several short stories, and you have another one there called Murder on the Bridge.
Murder on the Bridge.
Yeah, and I'll tell you about that in a second. But I want to tie these shorts. I was told by publishers that, look, you can't write short stories. People who are into true crime want to have a whole book, a whole story. If you found a way to link the stories, then, and there was a continuity to them,
Yeah.
then you can do it. So I have come up with an idea that is the fantasy part of my title of my new genre. I hope, true crime fantasy, and it's. I'll tell your listeners. I hope that it comes. I can pull this off. It's the fantasy part is that evil has come to Brooklyn in the form of the devil, and he is behind certain crimes that strike at the very fabric of life in Brooklyn, and killing this young mother and killing this young woman on the heels of the Crown Heights riots would foment more rioting, and that would make the devil very happy.
Does the devil
So,
have a name?
the devil is being called the devil. He has
Oh, okay. I
many
thought maybe
names.
he had a name.
He has
like, you know.
many names. No, he appears in many of the stories as different people.
Okay.
In this one, I haven't gotten to this story yet, so I don't know where he's going to appear or how he's going to appear, but he appears in the various stories to create a problem for the prosecutor, whose name is Michael Gioca. He's a character that I've used in I think I used it in Hand of the Killer. And I use it in several other stories that I've written that haven't been published yet. So anyway, that's what I'm going to do with Hand of the Killer. And Murder on the Bridge is, yes.
Mike, I wanted to ask you, Mike, how long were you on the force again?
No, I wasn't on the force. I was a district attorney. I'm
I'm
an
sorry.
attorney.
Why do I keep? You know what? I don't even. We were just talking about that before. I was saying my family members were
Yeah.
detectives, and I said you couldn't do your job today.
No,
You know.
I couldn't. And it's the same with a district attorney. I mean, to have a situation as the gentleman before, Mr. Blakeman, was talking about, this no bail situation is such a travesty that the crime rate, the murder rate in this state, in this city, and I live in New York City, and it's horrendous. I mean, every day I read the stats. How many people were killed the night before? How many people were shot? And it all has to do with this no bail situation, letting
Yeah,
people
you know,
out.
I can't understand this concept of where you want to cut police. You know, you want to defund the police department. I'm like, my
Horrible.
God, this is like we're going back to the caveman.
Yeah.
We're going
It's horrible.
backwards instead of trying to graduate from. You
But
know.
I spent 30 years in the DA's office.
Oh wow.
And I had 10 years of my own in private practice. So I saw both sides of the courtroom. But the last 13, 14 years, I was chief of the rackets division in Brooklyn DA's office. And it's where Crooked Brooklyn, the book that I wrote about my years as chief of rackets, those are the stories that are in that book.
Now,
So-
I got to ask you. Now, you being a prosecutor, sometimes you get these people. Of course, you get a lot of people that you keep seeing over and over, repeat offenders. Do you get sometimes within yourself frustrated, where it's like the judge is letting them go constantly, but they keep repeating the same thing over and over, and it's like, you know, there's no justice being done? I mean,
Well, now I would be horribly frustrated. Back then,
it wasn't like that.
It wasn't a situation where judges would just let people out, but we did have recidivists. I mean, there were people who were bad guys. Before I got to chief of rackets, I was in charge of another unit in the DA's office called the Major Offense Bureau, and our cases centered on people who were like this, recidivists, career criminals, and it was a very satisfying place to be, because you could finally get someone who has committed a horrendous crime or a series of crimes, making sure, of course, that the evidence fits, and then take them into court and hope a jury convicts them. So listen, I'm not going to say that I was 100%, because I wasn't. I mean, there were cases that I lost, and there were cases, but I won far more than I lost. But it is frustrating to read and to view TV and to read the news now and see people who commit horrendous crimes, armed robberies, who go into the court system, and a judge has no choice because of the legislature says that you have to let him or her back out onto the street. The bottom line is, what they're going to do, and it's proven now, is they're going to go out and commit another crime. I mean, there's a bank robber who was arrested in Brooklyn, and I'm sorry, in Manhattan, I believe it was. And as soon as he got out, the next day committed another bank robbery, and then committed another one. So it's just a bad situation. And until things change with the legislature, and until that law is repealed in some way or changed in some way, we're going to continue to have this. So
even today, they don't have to repeat. They don't have that third strike you're out kind of that's non-existent.
No, no. There is a law in New York, unless it's changed since I've been out of the DA's office. But if you have a number of felony convictions, then it's a mandatory life sentence. That's the way it used to be. I'm not sure if that law is still in existence, however. So
I got to tell you, I wish you could have met this guy I knew while he was a kid. When we were kids, he was always getting in trouble, and I got to tell you, really, and it's a sad story, but broken home, and he was just a life of crime. Did everything, and the guy's been in jail, incarcerated so long. Jeez. And I remember seeing him now. He was maybe a couple of years older than me, but I remember when I was a kid. I mean, the guy committed so many crimes that he spent more time incarcerated than he did, in the civilian world. Yeah. And when he came out, I remember I saw him, and he's like, Gregg, and he looked so different. And I was like, what are you doing out? I said, I heard you had he goes, no, they let me out, but he goes, I don't like it out here.
Yeah, because they get so right.
And you know what? It's so sad. He turned out, I ended up finding another friend that he was out for maybe, say, 2 weeks. He was having a hard time trying to adapt. And he just lost his mind. He just walked up to a police officer. Nothing, didn't kill him or anything like that. So I don't want anybody thinking that. He turned around, he said to the officer, I'm really, really sorry. He goes, but I can't stay out here. So, and he just punched the police officer, and then just laid on the floor, and got arrested. And I mean, now with all the offenders, he's doing life in there now. With of course he's a repeat offender, but he just
it's an extremely sad story. I mean, when there are institutional people, institutional men and women who can't get along on the outside because they have been in jail so often in their lives. I mean, it's
they're afraid, right?
They
have no money, and
there's no money, there's no education, they just cannot live in society. There are people like that. It's a horrible,
sad
situation.
It is sad. It's very sad.
There are so many reforms that are necessary in the criminal justice system that if I could start talking about them now, I wouldn't finish until Thanksgiving, quite frankly. So, you
should run for a political position, for crying out loud.
You really should.
Telling you should. Listen, I know you. I know you've been asked. Okay, so you know what? You really should.
I have.
See, I know that.
Listen, it's just not my bag. It's a frustrating situation because in order to run for office, you need to have money, and in order to get money, you have to kowtow to donors, and donors then don't ever lose your number. They call you all the time. I mean, it's just not my
Yeah,
Not my
but
cup of tea.
you're interested in making movies and
Yeah.
writing books now.
I'm interested in doing what I'm doing. So
Yeah,
I,
so isn't that great, Greg?
Yeah,
It's-
yeah, definitely.
yeah,
Definitely.
Look at
You
he's
know-
smiling. He looks younger. He's got a new hairdo. He's
the,
loving it.
And he's got
But, you
hair
know,
on his head. That's a wonderful thing.
yeah, I got hair in my head. That's
telling you.
a gift from my dad. My father had a full head of hair until the day that he died. He was 90 when he passed away, and he had a
God
full
bless
head
him.
of hair when he passed away. But you know something, Greg, I got to tell you, one of the other things about it is that, you know, in order to run for office, you got to get a political party to want you to and to like you and to want you to be their standard bearer. You know, I put too many politicians in jail and judges in jail to be liked by politicians.
Sorry.
That's what crooked Brooklyn's about, you know. So I'll tell you a story, and this will give you an example of what I'm talking about. I did cases in Brooklyn where 3 Supreme Court judges, 2 went to jail, 3 were convicted, 1 did not get convicted. I'm sorry, did not go to jail, but he was convicted. Several politicians. But when I went to a Christmas party, which I would go to all the time, run by the Brooklyn Bar Association, I was shunned. And I'm telling you, I was shunned. No one wanted to talk to me. No one came near me except one judge who I had known for years. And he walked up to me and in sotto voce, as we say in Italian, very low voice, he said, "Keep up the good work."
He respected you.
He respected me. And to this day, I never forget that line. I put that in Crooked Brooklyn because I'll never forget that. And now he's the administrative judge in Supreme Court in Brooklyn. And he was the one. Everybody else was, you know, it was.
Wait a second.
They
So
don't
wait,
have anything to do with it.
so you were around at the time. What was that guy? Mark, not Mark, with the 7-5.
I was around, but I didn't have anything to do with the 7-5. My boss did.
Yeah, with that guy.
Johan.
I forgot the guy. I forgot his name. Oh God, he was. I mean, he had to go in front of the Supreme Court. I mean, yeah, it was. That's when they had the biggest. Wasn't that like the biggest corruption thing in New York City back? Yeah.
Yes.
I was a kid. Don't mind you. Listen, I mean, I was 9 years old. I was
And you
like 9
remember,
years old,
yeah.
and I remember everybody talking about it. It was like,
It was a terrible situation. But the guy that did that case was my boss, Joe Hines. But we did a lot, you know, of the same kind of work in Brooklyn for, I would say, 6 years in a row, 6 straight years. I did nothing but corruption investigations, starting with a judge that, I mean, a case that came kind of out of the blue. I was home on a Sunday afternoon watching football, and I get a call from my boss who said, "I want you to meet with an attorney. He's got a client who he thinks, who he believes is the subject of a judge trying to solicit a bribe from him." So I went to meet him. It was my old boss in a DA's office. He had a client who was an attorney. The attorney represented a young, a mother and her very, very young daughter. The mother had gotten into an automobile accident, and the daughter was, I guess she was 1 or 2 years old, and was severely injured in the accident. I mean, she was severely injured. She wound up being severely handicapped, and the lawyer represented the mother and the child, and he was able to elicit or to solicit and then elicit a settlement from the insurance company for several $1 million. And in New York, in order to get a settlement approved by the judge, when there is an infant involved, a young kid, you have to have a signature by the judge approving the settlement, because the law doesn't want the mother and father to take the money. They want to make sure the money is put aside for the judge, for the child.
Right.
So there has to be things happening. So the judge has to sign it, otherwise there's no settlement. So the judge, when the settlement was agreed to by both parties, the judge reached out to the lawyer for the little girl and for the mother, and said to the attorney, took him on a walk talk. that used to happen with Gotti and Gravano in Little Italy. Well, he took the lawyer on a walk talk around the Brooklyn Supreme Court building and said, listen, if I don't get $250,000 from you, I'm not signing that piece of paper. So the lawyer was shocked, but he said, okay. So what happens is he goes back, he prepares the papers, the judge signs it. This is in August. He doesn't hear from the judge now for September, October, November, December. January 3rd, on the way, the first day back to work, he gets a call from the judge who says, come to my chambers. Goes to the chambers, and the judge, I don't know why he had to do this, but he whispered into the lawyer's ear, I haven't forgotten. Where's my money? So the lawyer says, listen, I can't pay you $250,000. Let's negotiate. He negotiated down to, I think it was $115,000 or $113,000, something of that nature. Judge says, okay, it's fine. He goes back to his lawyer now. The lawyer sought out a lawyer who was my old boss in the Homicide Bureau when I first started in the DA's office. He called my boss. I got together with him, and we said, listen, we can take care of it. We'll do this. We'll do this case. This is what we need your client to do. We're going to wire him. We're going to give him a portion of the money, and when he pays the judge off, we'll be able to capture it all on audio. So I had a very sharp detective working with me, and the detective said to the lawyer who was going to pay the money, you have a sport coat, blue, blazer that you can give to us. The lawyer says, yeah, of course. This is why. So just bring it in next time I see it. So he brings it in, and what my detective did was he sewed into the lapels of the jacket 2 microphones, and then put the microphones were connected to a small recording device that was about this big. And we secreted that in his underwear. We sewed it into his underwear. The reason for the lapel microphones was that the judge, as I said before, would lean over and talk into the lawyer's ear. So we didn't want to miss anything. So
we thought of everything.
We thought of everything. And we brought the money. He paid him, and he did just exactly what we thought he was going to do. He leaned over and said, don't let me chase you for the rest. So the lawyer came back. We had a terrific case. My boss then says to me, listen, this is a judge we're going to lock up. I want you there when the arrest occurs. I had never done that before. So it was Martin Luther King Jr. weekend. The judge who was the defendant, who was soon to be the defendant, was away for the weekend. So we parked in front of his home on a Tuesday morning. I got up about 3 a.m. We were there from like 4 a.m. because I knew that he was a tennis player and that he would go and play tennis early in the morning. So we wanted to get him as he was going to the tennis courts. And we saw him come out, followed him, cut him off, and stopped him. Asked him to get out of the car, and there were detectives there with me. And he went, fellas, that's okay. Everything's fine. I'm a Supreme Court judge. So we said, yeah, we know. That's why we want you to come with us. Put him in the back seat of the detective car with me. My detective buddy was driving, and I look over. We're driving from southern part of Brooklyn to North Brooklyn, which is where the office was. And I look over, and this judge is sleeping. He fell asleep in the car on the way down to the office. So I said to George, a detective, I said, George, look at this guy. He's asleep. He goes, Mike, that's how we know he's guilty. He said, the guilty always sleep. Imagine you wouldn't sleep if you would be outraged if you hadn't done what
he knew he was caught.
And he was like, detectives, that's something that detectives have told me from time immemorial. Ever since I started going on rides, which are the responding to precincts for horrible crimes, I'd say, where's the defendant? They would say to me, he's in the cell, he's asleep. They'd say, that's, we got the right guy.
I like that line, the guilty always sleep.
Yeah, so he went to jail. We ultimately took a plea. He went to jail. And there was a woman who was watching the sentencing of this judge on TV. She had had a problem with another judge in Brooklyn who she believed was being bribed by her husband in divorce court for this custody of their children. And she came to us and said, I have this situation. And that turned out to be yet another case that we did. We were able to put cameras in the judge's chambers, wired the thing for sound. And for 2 months, we watched them commit crime after crime. He was being bribed by a lawyer who I turned and became a witness for us for the results of cases. The lawyer was able to get people. He had somebody out there who was a kind of a finder. He would find the cases and say, listen, go to my friend. He's got a judge on the, he's got a judge who's a friend of his. How did the case get in front of the judge? Well, they had bribed a guy in the clerk's office to make sure that these cases that were being handled by a particular lawyer got in front of this crooked judge. Garson is his name. And Judge Garson was getting bribed by this lawyer to take care of these cases that he was bringing in. And we had him on videotape. We had him on audio tape. He was, and when we arrested him, he said to me when I was questioning him, and we brought him out to Fort Hamilton Army Base. There was a small office there. The Criminal Investigation Division of the Army had an office out there. We didn't want to do any of this in front of, downtown Brooklyn, where everybody's eyes would be seeing what we're doing. So we brought him there to question him with his lawyer. And I said to him, Judge, this is what we have. He said, no, you don't. I didn't do any of that. Lawyer said, how are you going to show him? I said, I'll show you how I'm going to show him. I wheeled in a television camera, a television monitor. We had, then it was videotapes. We had a videotape player. We popped in a videotape of one of his sessions where he did what we charged him with. So the lawyer said, can I talk to my client by her alone for a moment? About 10 minutes later, he came into me and he said, he'll give you the head of the Democratic Party in Brooklyn, who's also a crook.
Oh, gee.
And that started me off on 4 cases, 4 indictments against the head of the Democratic Party in Brooklyn, a guy named Clarence Norman. So that investigation, all those investigations, took about 6, almost 7 years of my life. It did nothing other than those cases. And that's what we have in crooked Brooklyn.
Oh,
so,
my goodness.
So I don't think that politicians or being a politician would really suit me. I can't play the game. I couldn't do it. And you have to be able to play the game. So
well, it sounds like you're really enjoying what you're doing. We're excited for you.
Thank you.
Looking forward to the new movie.
Definitely,
TV
definitely.
Show, hopefully.
TV show. Wow.
TV show. Yeah, it's pilot is written. I'm hoping that now it's my agent in Hollywood is taking it out to the marketplace, and it's an exciting time. I'm hoping that that we can sell it. And as I said before, I've got this new book coming out. It's already done. The new book will be out in the spring. It's about a witness who about a Sicilian hitman who was who became a turncoat, became a witness for me, and but his life before he became a turncoat was unbelievable, and then what he did for me was unbelievable. And he wound up, this poor guy from Catania, Sicily, who was killing people on behalf of the mob in Sicily, and then on behalf of the Bonanno family in Brooklyn, became a star witness in front of President Ronald Reagan's Commission on Organized Crime, and the pizza connection, which is another whole story.
It's always pizza.
Yeah, so that will be out in the spring. It's called Homicide Is My Business, and hopefully you guys will have me back, and I can tell you all
No,
about
definitely,
it.
definitely.
Yeah,
Listen,
we're
we wanted to thank you so much, really, for coming on the show.
Thank you.
I wanted
Thank
to
you
thank
for
you so
having me.
much. I wanted to, I know I missed a couple of people, but I know on my feed, it's just that we're just going too much. But Sydney, how are you? Eliza, thank you so much. We have a big Kiwanis installation tonight here for Franklin Square. Yeah, so Stephen, it was really nice to see you also. Stephen, I miss you very much. We will have lunch very, very soon. Michelle, I gave you another shout out because you know what? You are an amazing woman. Anthony, thank you. Bob D'Amato, you know how much we love you. We don't even have to tell you. you know, and Sid and Nettie, how are you? I miss you guys. I haven't seen you in a long time. And of course, one of my favorites, and she said she's a sweetheart, and I'll see you later, is Denise. Denise, I love you, honey. She's the president of Kiwanis of Hempstead. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. And again, getting back to you, boy, that was a hell of a career you had. I got to tell you. And you know what? I bet that's not even a 16th of the stories that you really, really have.
I've got
You know what I
about
mean?
I've got about 10 or 12 boxes full of
Oh,
stories
my
and
God.
cases.
Sounds
and
so
all.
interesting,
Yeah,
really.
so we'll
Really
see.
does.
Point is, you got to get, you know, in order to get them out there, you have to have somebody interested in buying them, you know. So, but the book I'm doing that I'm physically writing right now, I have nobody buying it at this point. I'm going to write the entire book and then take it out and see if someone's interested in it, because you know, I just needed something to do, and I finished editing the book about the hitman. It's ready to go. So I kind of had a lull in my life at that point, so I started doing this, and
That was
hopefully I
good for
can
you,
sell it.
right?
Yeah,
Because you came back to life.
yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I needed it. I needed it.
Everybody needs a little downtime, and then boom.
Yeah.
You know,
That's right.
something hits, it starts.
Yep. I
That's
have
right.
to just say one other thing. I told this to Valentina before we began. During the summer, I had a really tragedy happen in my life. My writing partner, who was my best friend, Jerry Schmetterer, passed away from what was skin cancer, he thought. And I just want to you know, to give a shout out to Jerry wherever you are. I love you and I miss you. And when this book comes out in the spring, Jerry, this is our last work together, you know. So
Yeah, that's beautiful.
it makes me very proud to know that it'll be out, and that, you know, he hopefully will be looking down on us and blessing us in terms of its sales.
He will, and you know what? I'll help you with the book launch.
Thank you. I would love to do that.
That's right. That's right.
Here. We do.
Thank you
Well,
guys for
again-
having me.
Well, again, I want to say thank you. I know we have to thank our sponsors. I'll just mention two of them, and Oral Puro Jewelers. Teddy, I haven't seen you in a while. I miss you. Back on my feet again. I will stop by to see you guys, which is a great jewelry place right there in Franklin Square. You're going to love it. And Prince from Jackson Hewitt, which he's a very good friend. He's right there in Franklin Square, 2700, if I'm not mistaken. Hempstead Turnpike. And go ahead there. Kill it.
Tranquility Spa. You're going
That's right.
to
That's your
spa
favorite. I
treatment.
can't
am?
even mention
Yeah, I'm going to send you
Tranquility.
the coupon.
Good. Thank you.
Franklin Square, bring your wife. You
Terrific.
go into a soul cave. You ever go into a soul cave?
Nope, but I
There
will.
you go.
I'm
So
telling you, you
from-
have to, because you know what I got to tell you. From what I understand, I went there for a massage, which I love. I never went there for a foot massage, which I heard that's forget it.
You
That's
got
where I
go.
saw her fall asleep. So I know I really want to
do.
give it a
So
shot.
I'm going to send you a coupon.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, so this was a great show, and keep in touch with us.
I will
And
do
don't
that.
forget, you know, when
Yep.
you get this TV thing going, Greg and I were available. for
That's right.
anything.
You got it.
Buy
You
for
know
your
that.
women, men, stories, whatever.
I'll
That's
keep you
it.
in mind. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
So thank you.
guys.
Wish you the
Thank
best
for
of luck
having me.
and in the future. So hopefully we'll see you soon. And hun, this is a
A wrap.